Hey, it's GameKave.
Yes, it's GameKave, our video game analysis talk show thingy about topics in the industry. So, in our previous episodes from some time ago, we got a comment that said that we are two dorks on a couch that should not be telling a $3 trillion valuation company what to do. So we decided to lower our sights somewhat, but instead telling a $125 billion valuation company what to do. So what Bronson has done is purchase a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I have purchased 5 shares of Sony Group 株式会社。私は日本語を話せません。
All right, hey, yeah, so we're here to talk about PlayStation today. And they've kind of become a little stagnant over the past, if I'm being honest, decade.
Wow, we're starting off by torching everybody, aren't we?
Just light the village on fire. Everyone gets a turn. Nintendo, you're next.
Stagnant. Okay, so why are we talking about them being stagnant when their PS5 is selling at a faster rate than PS4? Xbox is effectively kind of phoning it in at this point in terms of their Xbox hardware. Like Sony, like sales-wise, they're doing quite well, all things, and they got some of the most prestigious games in the entire industry. So why are we talking about them stagnating?
Well, the first thing is they have not been happy with this sales performance. They're like, well, it's not living up to our expectations for it. So it's like, okay, are your expectations too high, or what is happening to where this is selling better than your previous system, which is your second best selling system ever? But it's also underperforming in your opinion. And then they've also spent, yes, the system itself is selling better, but they have spent a lot of goddamn money to make this happen, and part of that money spent made them zero money. A $400 million bomb called Concord.
Yikes.
Yep.
Which kind of reveals, like, maybe the struggle here is that despite the fact that their revenue is still very strong, PS5 is selling better and everything, the fact that they are spending so much brings up the question of one of the things in business that people don't like is when your margins get really thin.
Yes, and I believe their margins are very thin because of the fact that you had to look that PS5 had to get a price increase in certain territories. This generation,
all right,
which is the first time I've ever seen that happen for a console.
Like a MSRP increase?
Yes,
not just like some shortage.
No,
scalping.
like in Japan, the price of a PS5 went up $50 as MSRP.
Wow,
like that because the margins are just bad, or and then you look at the PS5 Pro, and you're like, $700 without a disk drive, dog.
That didn't help either because, yes, the PS5 Pro is selling within expectations, they said.
Yes.
Which, so, it's probably a good thing we filmed this a couple months after the Pro released, because leading up to it, it was like, who the heck's going to spend $700 on a PlayStation Pro? But if you look at the numbers,
this idiot.
But if you look at percentage-wise, I mean, the PS4 Pro didn't exactly sell like crazy either, and it was like within their expectations.
Right. They obviously think this thing is going to be like low-volume product, and it's and that makes sense because Aaron just bought a PS5 this weekend.
Okay.
And he bought a regular PS5.
Okay.
He did not buy a Pro. So it's like, and I only know 2 people who bought a Pro. Personally, it's me and HR Ninja in the Discord. So it's like, it's obviously meant to be a low volume item, but it also feels like they're kind of just doing it because they did it last time. Because if you look at what they've done, other than their push for live service, everything they did on PS4, they're doing on PS5, whether it makes sense or not. It doesn't necessarily make sense to make a Pro system right now. Microsoft isn't doing it. It's obviously insanely expensive to make. I'm going to be honest with you, after doing a ton of testing for it for an episode of the Gamecast, I think the people who get a benefit out of this thing are like, okay, if you have a VRR 4K television that does 120 hertz, you are the person who is getting a benefit out of this thing. And then, like, another example of running that same playbook, even though it necessarily doesn't make sense, is, like, PSVR 2 exists. And it feels like they're begrudgingly supporting it. They're like, we're putting games out on it, but they're not any of the high-profile ones, and I don't know. Here you go. Okay, so the headset's $550. And it's not only is it $550, it's like, not a lot of games support it. The one, like, Gran Turismo is incredible on it, but it's like nothing else is really like...
You have to tailor to VR.
And it's not it's not backwards compatible without an adapter that you have to request from Sony. VR just feels kind of like the Vita, where there's a lot of cool tech here that has so much potential, but they're kind of like, we'll throw you a bone once in a while, but this is third party's problem.
This goes into my observation in the past year that Sony's trying to move PlayStation up market. They're trying, or at least present it as up market. It's a very common thing that I noticed that businesses love to do post-COVID. Is like, oh man, people are just buying cars, buying houses, buying luxury accessories. We need to make PlayStation up market. We need to make it like the luxury, desirable product because everybody likes luxury. So like multiple steps to that. Spend a huge amount making the highest quality perfection games imaginable. So you see this with Horizon. You see this with Horizon, Spider-Man 2, Gran Turismo 7, God
of War.
Yeah, and without doubt, they are absolutely the highest quality of games.
Yeah.
For the hardware, it is, I think part of it plays into the fact as to why the PS5 has this weird design to it. I think it is to make it look like a piece of living room design. Mm-hmm. Instead of what Xbox does, which is just to make a box. And I have seen some comments where people are like, the Xbox doesn't look good, it's just a box. You and I don't mind, because it's like, well, yes, we're here to play games. And that simplicity, that minimalist simplicity is actually great.
I think that the current generation of Xboxes look so much better than the PlayStation. They look so much better, but visually.
In PlayStation's defense, I strongly believe the PS5 look the way that it does is because it sticks out, right? I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Am I looking at your Xbox to your left? No, I'm looking at this thing with the weird fins and the curves and all that kind of stuff. It is to be a fashionable piece of living room design. Until you try and put a controller on top of it and it just keeps sliding off and landing on the floor.
Or you just look at it and you're like, what is this obese, misshapen monstrosity?
That needs this awkward stand that you have to put on and falls off every time you try to move the thing.
Anytime you want to move the damn thing, but if you don't have it, it's going to screw up your disk drive.
On top of that, to make things even more difficult, we're in the post-COVID era.
Yeah.
In the post-COVID era, we had a chip shortage, and we're reaching the point where lowering cost of production on chips is nowhere near as easy as it used to be.
Yes.
When I looked at PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 3 Slim, colossal improvement. Yes, they were in a bad position. They had to be very friendly to consumers. But if you looked at the original price of the PS3 and looked at all the revisions they made by the time they got to the Slim, it made the Slim appealing, and they were able to discount old models.
Dear PlayStation, I got a tip that you were making the PS3 $299. Confirm or deny?
$299? Bernie, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. That's how World War I got started.
Same with the Xbox 360. Over time, price cuts, holiday bundles, and sales. We didn't, because of COVID and other things, we didn't really see bundles start to appear until
2 years in.
Until like holiday 2023. And we definitely saw holiday 2024. But if you look at it right now, the PlayStation 5 Slim without a disc drive is $400?
$450. $450, yeah.
It's still a $500 system with a disc drive.
Yeah.
Although I guess with the Slim, it's just add-on only, I think.
No, with the Slim, you can get one. You can get a Slim with a disc drive.
Okay.
That's $500.
Right. So you can't price cut the system very aggressively because it was already hard enough to get the chips.
Yeah.
You're probably selling the system at a loss.
Yeah,
so you got to make it back with software and accessories
and services.
But your software, you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars at a time. It's like I remember it's sort of like a slider, where to get 5% more, you got to spend 20%. You got to do 20% extra effort.
Yeah, well, and you look at like their games where they're also like taking safe bets in not quite as bad as Ubisoft or EA, where it's just like, but you look at a lot of their games, they're very much that samey, like, okay, it's third person, the camera's over the shoulder, unless you're like in action or doing something, then we'll blow it out a little bit. It's very much all the, you know, like it's prestige television vibes. Like if you play God of War, Last of Us, or
the intro to Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, like the intro to Spider-Man 2.
How to get a blank check for anything, do Spider-Man 2 intro.
Yeah, so it's like...
But it's harder to take risks the bigger the budget is, because the risk now becomes being scared of a flop.
Right.
So you have to play it safe.
Which is why what I would tell Sony is they need to go run their own even older playbook, which they might be doing, because, you know, you look at Astro Bot and you're like, oh, well, this costs like $50 to $100 million instead of 300 or 200, and it was Game of the Year, and it was polished, and it was different. It wasn't a samey, like, over-the-shoulder prestige television video game. It was,
right.
You know, because
and it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Yep, and it won my Game of the Year. I gave it my Game of the Year.
Yeah, they quoted the financials person's, I think, saying, yeah, we don't have enough IP, and every PlayStation person who's even been around with PlayStation for more than 10 years is just like, what? There's all this IP. What are you talking about? And then Astro Bot comes out, which did remember all of its IP.
IP was just like, yeah, Sony, like, Astro Bot was just like, you remember Vib Ribbon? Do you remember The Last of Us? Do you remember Jak and Daxter? Do you remember Crash Bandicoot? Do you remember and they don't own some of those, but do you remember Shadow of the Colossus? You know, you look at God of War, you look at Last of Us, you look at even Ghost of Tsushima, like, these could very much be HBO TV shows if you wanted to.
And they did try that.
And they succeeded. Last of Us was
there's Last of Us TV show.
Yep.
There's a Uncharted movie.
Yep. All right.
There's a Gran Turismo movie.
Also all right.
So, like, you know, they're very much like making efforts to grow PlayStation brand.
Yeah.
Beyond just the game itself, which is a very popular thing to do, because, you know, that's what Pokemon's been doing for the last almost 30 years now. Pokemon isn't just games, it's spin-offs, it's merch, it's TV, it's movies.
It's people fighting in Costco over Pokemon cards.
Yes. Like, you know, and of course everyone will look at that and be like, hey, we want to be like them. Sony is learning or realizing kind of the same struggles that a lot of other companies that have attempted to try this.
Yeah.
You know, I think of like Warcraft never really went beyond just a movie.
Yeah.
You know, Halo had a really bad television show.
Yep. And a pretty good anime.
Yeah, and Sony, like, they have the resources to just simply say, hi, Columbia Studios, make us a movie on this game.
Yes.
If they wanted to. They have a huge music division. Sony is a conglomerate.
Yes.
So they have a lot of reasons, but the thing is, like, managing the branding of a games is very difficult, and also, like, as it turns out, very costly also.
Yes. Also, like, I just think, like, I compare the late era PS4 and PS5 to, like, PS2 and 3, where, like, there was a lot of variety from Sony first party. It's like, we have shooters, Resistance and Killzone. We have platformers, Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper. We have these cinematic action-adventure games, Uncharted and Last of Us. We have racing games like MotorStorm. We have platformers like Little Big Planet. And then I look at, like, late-era PS4, early-era PS5, it's like, we have open-world games and we have cinematic, linear story games.
All of our resources to make a racing game is all in Gran Turismo.
Yeah, you're not getting MotorStorm, you're not getting Drive Club.
Which, by the way, they did a great job using those resources in Gran Turismo. They put in 2 vans.
Yeah.
One of which is the ambulance, and one of them is your regular shipping van.
I love that you know that.
Time for a smoke break.
All of their studios make single-player games for the most part. And they tried to do this transition to live service, and you can't just wave a magic wand and tell a bunch of people who are used to making Last of Us or God of War to make multiplayer Last of Us or God of War.
The thing is, too, is that when they were doing that, they were also like 5 to 10 years late to the party.
Yeah.
Because by the time they were doing all this live service stuff, this was like early early. This is like just right after COVID.
This is right. This
early
is like
post-COVID.
Early COVID. Like,
Yeah, this is
I don't
like 2020, 2021, and I was like the live service thing was like 2015. Like you're kind of late already.
I think if you wave a magic wand and I now have full say at what goes on at PlayStation, is one, we need to go console the Vita engineer who's crying still. But after that, I go and I say, hey Insomniac, when you're done with Wolverine and Venom, you said Ratchet & Clank was sub $100 million. Can you do that? And same with Miles Morales. Can we keep games at those scales? All right, cool. Hey, Astro Bot guys, keep doing what you're doing. Keep it up. Good job.
Yeah.
You go to the Ghost of Yote people, and depending on where Ghost of Yote goes as far as scope and scale is, it's like, yo guys, can we keep it at where like the first game is at, please? Like you have to rein in your scope and scale while keeping the same level of quality, because like, and this is an industry-wide problem. It's like, my homies, we don't need a 90-hour video game. Like, we don't. And
it's good to get value for your money.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also like to see the end.
Yeah, like,
I would like to finish it. And honestly, when you look at trophies and achievements, percentage of people who actually finish games is actually quite low.
It's like half. It's like
and I would say like Metaphor is a game that usually has an above average completion rate for the type of game it has, and I think when I finished it, it was still like maybe 30 or 40%.
Yeah, like I looked at
have finished it.
Yeah, so like you're looking at like, depending on the game, it's like 20 to 40% of people will actually finish their games. But like, just lower the scope, guys. Like, I think of that meme. How elaborate do we need to keep making this fight?
Or keep doing keep doing the prestige titles, because they only come like 2 or 3 times a year.
Yep.
But maybe fund some smaller things.
Or that
to promote. And I'm pretty sure in State of Play,
well,
somebody could easily point to be like, well, watch State of Play. They promote like 10 smaller titles all the time. What more do you want? It's just people choose not to pay attention to it. And that may be true.
But those aren't Sony first party either. Like, this isn't like them going like, we made this small thing called, Flower. It's like, no, it's here's some games from random studios. And sometimes those games end up being great. Like, they promoted Wukong.
Yeah.
But those are also, you can play Wukong on a computer. So it's like, I think that, or even doing what they did in early PS4, where early PS4 they had this big indie initiative, where you get to play Transistor on us first. You get to play Super Bro Force on us first. We're throwing real money at all these indie developers and getting these indie games to be like big name PlayStation stuff.
I'd be like, I think a little bit of diversification may be good here.
I
mean, Astro Bot has proved it.
Yes, I think that...
Okay, this was this unexpected darling that, everyone at the execs is like, wait, what?
It's game of the... What the fuck?
Okay, I mean, we're happy. We're totally happy, but
yeah,
where'd this come from?
Because, I played the original Astro Bot. It's not the original, but the original, that platformer like this that comes with your PS5. Mm-hmm. It's called Astro's Playroom. And I was like, this is awesome. This is a really cool tech demo. It's like 6 hours long. I had a great time with it. Mm-hmm. And then I was just like, it'd be really cool if they fleshed this out more. And they put out the trailer for Astro Bot. And so many people were confused why I was stoked. And then they all played it. And they were like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I'm like, yes. They basically made Mario Galaxy 3.
A PlayStation.
A PlayStation.
That celebrates PlayStation.
Yes.
Heck, like Sony was celebrating their 30th
anniversary.
30th anniversary, and they did some cool menu stuff.
Yeah.
Which was a nice gimmick.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Gran Turismo and all that stuff, but at the same time, there's some like really obvious omissions.
Yeah.
From it. It's almost like they don't remember their own history.
It just feels like there's this really weird divide in like PlayStation history, where you have the PlayStation 1 through 3 as this one segment of PlayStation, and then you have the 4 and 5 as this other segment, and they only want to remember 4 and 5, whereas I feel like a very large chunk of their audience remembers 1, 2, and 3 as well as 4 and 5. Like, I've been around since the original PlayStation. I love a lot of games from that entire history.
Right.
I can tell you some of my favorite games on PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, and PS5. Like, and I want that to be supported in them. I want them to go like, man, you know what? Symphony of the Night was really cool. Let's work with Konami to get like a refresh of Symphony of the Night going.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Their plans for being upmarket and being prestige. What's a good component of prestige? History.
Yeah. Hey, do you think PlayStation is stagnant? Do you think PlayStation's doing great? And
if you do think that they could be stagnating, what would you like them to do differently? Or if you feel that the company you see today, the PlayStation you see today, doesn't resemble what you loved about PlayStation when you were younger, what would you change to kind of bring some of that soul back? Because I don't think it would be good if Sony starts getting trapped in the flagship luxury problem.
It seems like they are making some corrections. They canceled the live service games. They
still have a lot of goodwill with players.
And they have confirmed that our plan is to put out 2 to 3 big prestige exclusives a year for the rest of the PS5's lifespan. Yeah. As a longtime fan, I would love for them to acknowledge their history more, and it seems like they're starting to do that.
Maybe that's all they need to do.
Yep. All right.
And lower the budget a little.
Hey, you should subscribe.
And like.
And comment. All those things help algorithm, the internet god.
The algaes.
Yep.
And hopefully it won't take me 6 months to edit this time. I put out when did I put the episode out? Like in November, and it was filmed in July?
Yep.
At least it didn't age so bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. We love you. Like, subscribe, follow us on socials. Under the hat.